Yo guys, this is the first part of a login system that we're going to create. So let's get into it. I'm here in Visual Studio 2019. Let's go ahead and create a file, a text file. So let's add a new item. Here it is in utility text file, and we'll just call this outline. You can call it whatever you want. We're in this file, we're just going to describe what we need in the program. So we need a login function, we need a register function, and now let's think about what sub functions we can create that both of these main functions can use. So I'm thinking we're going to need to get a username when we're logging in, and we're going to need to get a username when we're registering. So get username is one function that we can use, and I'll just go ahead and say common functions, something like that, spelled wrong, whatever. Also in register and login, we're going to need to get a password, and then register and login, they'll both need to check if the username exists, because if you log in and the username doesn't exist, then you can't log in. And if you register and the username already exists, then you have to decide on a different name. So we need to check username exists. So I think these are the three functions that are common. And then there's a few unique functions for each one of these main methods. So for login, we're going to need to check the password, but we don't need to do that when we're registering, because they're creating a password. We don't need to check it. For registering, we need to create a user file so that we can actually save their password and their username. And I think that's really it. So let's go ahead and create our main driver function. So go here and click new item, and we'll go up to Visual C++, click that, and I just rename mine main. I always do this. I don't really like source.cpp, sounds weird. Let's go ahead and also create a function header and CPP file that we can use to keep our code organized. So let's go ahead and use this class operation that Visual Studio provides us with, and we'll just call it functions. It's going to create a class, we'll just get rid of it like that. And now in main, we can go ahead and include that header file. So there it is. Now let's go ahead and create our main driver. That's wrong, there we go. And we'll return 0 as long as it makes it there. There we go, that's our main function. Let's go ahead and look here. We need to create these two main functions. So let's do that. They're both going to be void because they're not going to return anything. So void login doesn't pass anything. Same with register. So we'll just do that. So that's that. Let's go ahead and create the definitions. So there's a shortcut. If you click anywhere on the name of the function and you hold control and then you press dot and enter, it'll actually create the definition for you. So that's pretty cool and useful. So let's do that for register too. Okay, there we go. We have both functions. Now we need to start creating our sub functions that are common. So we'll start creating these. So we're going to get username and get password first. These are going to return string types, so we need to actually include in our header file all the directories that we'll need. That's wrong. There we go. And we're going to include string, and then we're going to include IOStream, just so we can use cin and cout and that kind of thing. And I think there's one more, but oh yeah, it's fstream. We're going to need to use files to save our data. And then we'll go ahead, we don't really need to, yeah, we'll use it anyway. Using namespace standard. Quick note on namespaces and directories. Directories will transfer over to other files as long as you link them properly. So as you can see in our main.cpp, I linked this file which has all our directories, so we can use all of these in main.cpp. Also, functions.cpp includes this as well, so it can use all of these. But namespaces are different. You have to declare them in each one of the files that you use them in. So like we're going to use them in all of our files, so we'll just actually come here and copy this, make it a little easier on ourselves, and we'll paste it in. And we'll do the same thing over here. Okay, now that's all set up. Let's go ahead and create those sum functions. So we're going to be returning string, and the first one is get username. Okay, that's good. And we'll also do string get password. So that's good. We need the parentheses. Now let's go ahead and create the definitions. What you want to look for is green squigglies like that, and then you can go ahead and use that shortcut. There we go, and we'll do the same thing over here. Alright, so that's good. We don't need these returns. So let's go ahead and actually write some code. So get username, we need a username variable that stores the temporary username. We're going to prompt the user in the console to give us a username, and then we're going to get the username with cin because we only want it to be one word. There we go, and then we're going to return username. So that's good. We want to create these super basic functions so we can put them all together and make sure everything is really organized. So we're going to do the same thing. We'll actually just copy all this because no, we won't. That's going to be harder. So we'll just say string pass cout password, and then we'll get it from them cin pass, and then we'll return it. So that's super simple. Now let's look here at the outline. The third and last final common function is check if username exists. So for this, we're going to have to do a little prep. Okay, so right here, I'm in my project folder. As you can see, here's the solution. So if I go in here where all my files are, we're going to have to create a separate folder that's going to store all the username files. So we'll just call this users, and then in here, we're going to have a different file for each username that is using the system. So let's go ahead and create this check username exists function. We'll go ahead and copy that, and this is going to return a bool for true and false. So it'll return 1 if the username does exist, 0 if it doesn't exist. So we'll paste that and that, and we actually need to pass in a user name so that it has something to compare what's in the folder with. So that's all good. Let's wait for the green squigglies, and then we'll use our shortcut. Come on, you can do it. There we go. Okay. Now we need to create a bool found. So actually, no, we don't need to do that. We need to open an if stream. If stream, and we'll call it check because we're checking if it exists. And then we're going to try to open a file with the file name username. So check open, and then we're going to open the path. And as you might not know, actually, so here is our main.cpp, and since we're writing this function in main.cpp, this is where everything's referenced from. So we create a folder with users, so we actually need to include that path, and to do that we just go in double quotes and say users, so folder name, and then // this 2 forward slashes means we're in that folder now. And we're going to do this neat thing called concatenating, which means you're just adding strings together. So I'm going to concatenate username onto users, and so that'll try to find a username, and then we'll also concatenate .txt. So we'll try to find a txt file with the name username that we pass in. So that's actually pretty interesting to think about. And then we need to check if that fails. So if that fails, that means there's no username with that name. So if check the stream fails, and this is a function predefined for file streams. So if that fails, we're going to go ahead and return a 0 because it doesn't exist. Else it does exist, so we need to return a 1. So that's that function defined. Now let's go ahead and create the other functions. So we're going to go ahead and file save all because we don't want to lose any of this work if my computer crashes, which it won't. So for login, let's go ahead and define the, actually let's do this first, register create user file. That'll be better in the long run. So we're going to do, it should be void, yeah, void, create user file. Okay, and we also need to pass in the username because we can't create a file if we don't know what the name of that file is. Okay, let's wait for the green squigglies, and we'll go ahead and pass this over to functions.cpp. So here we need to create an upstream. Yes, and we're going to call this create new file. And let's go ahead and show you how to do this directly on the declaration line. So we declared a stream. We can go ahead and open parentheses and define the path here. Remember, we're in that users folder, so we got to do that, and then two forward slashes to show that we're in it. Now we're going to concatenate username, and then we're going to concatenate.txt. So this will create a file that has username in it. So let's see, that should work. So we can go ahead and put that in register. The first thing we need to do when we register is get username. Okay, and then we need to check if username exists, and we need to set this to a string username so we can pass it. Username is equal to that, and then we can pass it username. There we go. And then so we check if it exists, and that function returns a 0 if it doesn't exist. Okay, so if and we'll actually go ahead and put this in the actual conditional statement because it'll execute either way. There we go. And we'll use the assignment, or not the assignment, the compare operator equals 0. That means it does not exist. We need to use that function that we just did, create user file. So create user file, and we're passing in the username again. There we go. Else the username already exists, so we're going to cout sorry that name is taken. Okay, and then /n to do a new line, and then let's start working on our login function. Oh, also we're not done. So register, we create the user name, and then if we create the user file successfully, we need to create a password. So we'll get password, that's a function, and then we need to set that to a variable called string password. We'll create the variable out here so it's not being redeclared every time and wasting memory. So pass, and we'll go ahead down here and say pass equals that. Okay, next we need to actually send that password to the file. So let's go ahead and create another function that says void send pass to user file, and then we're going to pass the string username again, just like we've been doing. Wait for the green squigglies, and we'll go ahead and send this to function cpp. Okay, so in here we need to, let's see, wait, hold on. Let's see, pass equals get password. We actually need to send the password in here too. So we can say string pass, and we'll go ahead and just copy this and come here down to the function definition, and we'll put that in. So that's good. Oops, that's the wrong one. My bad. There we go. So now we need to create an upstream, and we'll call send to, and we'll go ahead and use that same oh my god, I can't speak, initialization method, and we'll copy this up here. There we go. And with that, and that. Okay, so now that's opening up the username file, and it exists because we checked if it exists. And now we need to actually print the password into there. So we'll do send to, because that's the file stream, and then print, and we'll be printing pass, whatever we pass in there. Okay, so that's good. Now we can come back up here to register, and we can call that function, what I call it, send pass to file. Send, thank God for IntelliSense, and we'll pass the username and the password. There we go. So that's good. That should be the function complete. Now let's work on the login function. So for login, we need to get the username. So get username, and again, we'll set that to a username variable of type string. There we go. Now we need to do the same thing. We need to check if it exists or not. So we'll do that down here. If check username exists, we'll pass in username. Yeah, I spelled that right. Compare operator equals 0, which means it doesn't exist. We have to say, we'll copy this. Oops. Sorry, that name does, oh my goodness, I need to learn how to spell, does not exist. Okay. Else it does exist, so we need to get the password, so we'll get password. Okay, that's good. And then we need to check the password, and we haven't written that function yet. Remember, it's right here. So we'll create that function now. We'll do get check password, which will return a bool if it's right or not. So bool check pass. We need to pass in a username. Yeah. Nope, that's not right. String username. There we go. Now wait for the squigglies, bring squigglies, and then we can send it over. There we go. Let's go ahead and create a string in file. So this will be the password that's in the file, and then we'll also create a string password that they'll type in. That's them trying to guess the password. So we need to create an if string check password. So we'll just call it that, and we'll link to users folder, and in the user folder we need to open up the username, and it has to be of type .txt. So that's good. So it exists. The stream exists because we checked that, or did we? We have to check. So login username check if you okay, yeah, we did check. So we're getting password, and now we're checking password. So we have the file open. We need to set the in-file password. So we need to do the stream, and we have to get in file. So that's good. Now we have to get the password from them. So we're going to call, we're going to set pass equal to get password. Okay, because we had that function earlier. We don't have to create a bunch of couts and that crap. And then we have to check if it is equal to what's in the file. So if pass is equal to in file, then we return 1 because the password's correct. Else we're going to return 0. So that's that function defined. So up here we can check the password, and we pass in a username. Yeah, okay. So we can actually get rid of this because we're getting the password in the function. So check pass username. So we check the password if we actually have to create a variable of type bool. So correct, that's what we'll call it, equals check pass. If correct equals 1, which means the password was right, we'll say you're in. So cout you're in exclamation and L. Okay, else the password was wrong, so else, and we'll say cout wrong password and L, and we want to do something if it's the wrong password, and that's where our main menu function will come in. So obviously the user needs to be able to choose what they do if they log in or register, and so for that we're going to create a main menu. So this is going to be void main menu. There we go. And let's go ahead and define this. Okay, so here in main menu we're going to create an option for them. So we're going to cout, and I'll create a menu real quick. Okay, so what you can see is that I gave them 3 options. They can exit the program, they can log in, or register, and then they enter their choice as a number, which is in the parentheses. And now what we need to do is use this thing called switch, and the condition is going to be choice, so whatever number they typed. We can get rid of this, we don't need default. So there we go. Now we're going to use what's called cases, and so case 0 is going to be when they enter a 0. We use colon and then we wrap it in curly braces. So if they enter 0, we can see it's going to exit. So we're going to use this predefined function called exit, and it's going to pass 0. And what that's going to do is pretty much the same thing as main CPP returning 0. It's basically doing that. It's returning 0 for the main function. So it's just exiting the program. So case 1 is going to be when they want to log in. So we're going to call the login function. There we go. Super easy. We also need to include these breaks on anything that's not exit, so that it doesn't do all the cases under it. So we'll define case 2, and this is going to be register, so there we go, and we need to break. Okay, so that's all set up. So we can come here to our driver function and set up a while loop, an infinite loop, sorry, and then we'll call the main menu. There we go. So that should work. And then also in the main menu, after we do all this stuff, we want to system pause, and we also want to system clear screen, so it's fancy. There we go. Let's go ahead and see if this is working or not. So I'm going to come up here to the build tab and build the solution first. Okay, so as you can see, I got a build succeeded. So now I'm going to debug the thing, and hopefully it's working. Maybe not, I don't know. So let's go ahead and try to register. Notice how we don't have any users in this folder yet. So hopefully after this we will. I'm going to use Boise as the username, and then I'll set a password as password. How creative. There we go. Unfortunately, it's not clearing the screen, but let's see. It did create this file, and it did enter the password into it, so that's good. That's what we wanted. Now we just need to fix this clear screen thing. So, oh, it might. That's why. My bad. So let's do that. That was in the switch, I think. Yeah, it was in the switch, which means that was acting like a case, so it wasn't doing it. Let's try this, and hopefully it'll be clearing the screen multiple times. Okay, here we are. Let's try to log in. Name is Boise, password is password, and it says you're in, system pause, and then a clear screen. So that's good. Let's try register. Boise, and then, sorry, that name's taken, system pause, clear screen, and then we'll register a new one just to make sure. Boise 4 or 4, and then password, and it says, so it logs it, and then press it to continue. We need to get rid of that. Where is that? That's in the, I don't know where that is. Oh, here it is. Maybe? Not really sure. Where's that? Okay, let's try. I don't know if that'll fix it or not. Hopefully it does. Doesn't matter. Everything's working properly. It's just how we're presenting the information we need to fix. So register Whiskey 5 password. Press any key. Okay, so that works. Let's look at our user files, and we have 5. And each one of them has password in it because I made the passwords all the same. So that's the basic login / register system. I encourage you to follow along with this video and type it all out. Thanks for watching. Bye.